My name is Neil Milton, and I'm the General Manager of ChildSafe. And ChildSafe's a not-for-profit harm prevention charity, and we work with organisations to prevent harm and abuse of children. And we also help with parents to help them to become great parents and to help them in times of crisis, but also to help educate them to navigate this space. And so today we are privileged to have a Facebook Live with a very special friend of mine and also a ChildSafe champion. Her name is Sharon Witt. And welcome, Sharon Witt.
It's great to be here.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much for being here. It is absolutely wonderful that you're here. Thanks for giving us your time. You've said to me numerous times over the last couple of weeks that you've been inundated with media. What's going on there?
Absolutely. Well, I think, this is a time that is unprecedented. And so as an educator and someone who works in the area of resilience, especially with our children, I've just been inundated with parents really, or media wanting some answers, and how do we remote educate our children? How do we manage this time at home, and how do we help our children develop resilience during this time? So, a lot of radio and media and TV, and it's been crazy. But
it is crazy. And look, I guess society's been thrust into this, and parents have been thrust into this, and educators have been thrust into this, and children have been thrust into it. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what that is. And I guess the first question that we really need to discuss is, this crisis of COVID-19. I mean, it's really taken us by surprise. And parents are really scrambling to understand, how do we talk to our children about that? What advice would you give to parents on how to talk to their children about this situation?
Yeah, well, I think literally it did creep up on us very quickly. I mean, there was a little bit of warning, and then it went very quickly. So I know for myself as an educator, it was literally days, and we were suddenly looking at remote schooling and what that was going to mean for us. I think we need to, as parents, be mindful of talking about it all the time. I don't know how other parents are feeling, but I know for myself, I'm feeling very saturated with all of the information and the constant news cycle at the moment. So I think if we're feeling like that as parents and as adults, can only imagine what our children might be feeling right now. So I think at the moment, when you've got young children, I think the more simplified you can explain it, the better. I would encourage parents, and they would have already had this discussion with their children, because the children are thinking, why can't I go anywhere? It is simply to say that there is a virus like a cold, like a flu that is going around. However, this one doesn't have the usual vaccine, so we need to stay inside, and we are keeping ourselves safe, but also our parents and grandparents safe at this time. And that's literally what we need to say, because I think there's going to be a lot of changes that our children already are going to be seeing and sensing, especially with parents who are working from home. There's a whole lot of issues that are around that, but also just, life is changing for us with very little warning, and financially, so many different ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our teenagers, it's quite different, because they are very connected. They are online, they're socially connected, so they will know a lot about what's going on, but really they're going to know about as much as we do, because they'll be watching the media and watching the news. But I think for myself at the moment, I almost need to have a bit of a 48-hour break from listening to the news. So, yeah.
Absolutely. That's really great advice. And I think you're right, is that for me personally, I found that I was just being consumed with all of this media and trying to kind of navigate all of this stuff and these conspiracy theories and things like that. And at the end of the day, I need to listen to the Prime Minister and our Premier in Melbourne, because, whatever's law, that's what I need to go with,
Yeah.
And I think, conspiracy theories or not, the reality is that we're missing something very important with our children if we're trying to decipher that when we should actually be, connecting their kids. Now, I'm gonna stop there for one moment and just say that before we get into some other questions, now that we've got a whole bunch of us joining, and thank you to everyone being with us. It is great to have you here. We've got something really special to share, and that is that between Sharon and ChildSafe, we're actually putting together a prize pack, a really great prize pack. Now, what are some of the books there that are going to be given, Sharon?
Well, we've got a copy of Raising Resilient Kids, which is a book that Resilient Kids has put together. That includes chapters from Dr. Michael Carr-Gregg, our own cyber safety expert, Susan McLean, myself. I've actually written one chapter about taking care of your own self, your own resilience. So that's a really good time to be revisiting that. Michelle Mitchell talks about self-harm. And there's also a chapter on anxiety as well. So lots of different chapters. So we've got this book, Raising Resilient Kids, and the other two that we are giving away is two of my Girl Wise books. So we've got A Girl's Guide to Being You, which is a great one for girls who are home right now. Lots of activities about looking after themselves, finding out the things that they're good at, gifts and talents. And this one's A Girl's Guide to Friends. There's lots of activities in these books that will keep them busy. So we've got a few books. So we're giving, I presume we're giving a pack of 3 away. I'm not sure how that's going to happen, but they're the 3 that we're giving away.
That's right. So what we're doing is we are connecting with Sharon and ChildSafe. So we've also going to put a bookmark in and some other things as well. So all you need to do to win this book and this bookmark and this wonderful prize pack, we want you right now to share this live, share it live. You can like it, share it, and then tag some people that you think should be actually be here watching this and maybe couldn't, right? So just tag them. And make sure you share it. And then basically tonight, I will be picking someone to get that. We'll get those books off of Sharon and we'll send them to you in the next couple of weeks. So make sure you like, share, and tag your friends, and that'll be great. Thanks so much, Sharon, for doing that. We really appreciate that. That's so kind. And I know, like I said, you are inundated by the media about this. But you've donated this to us, and we're really excited. And I just wanted to say, and I just want to put a bit of a plug here, is that my daughter actually came to me when she knew that I was going to be doing this with you, and she said, Sharon Witt's my favourite author, and she's 8 years old. My wife has gone through those books with her, and just absolutely loves them, and over again. It's not one that you just read over a night. It's something that you continue to read, which is fantastic. So let's keep going. Look, you talked about anxiety a little bit, and I think that's probably one of the feelings that some children are feeling. But what do you think that children could be feeling at this time in the middle of this crisis, and how can parents support them through that?
Yeah, I think children, I mean, a lot of them are on school holidays at the moment, but they can just be feeling a bit out of sorts, that life as they knew it and routine as they knew it has gone out the window. But also for many of them right now, their Easter holidays have been cancelled. Like many children, many families would be going away right now and packing up, the car and the tents and getting ready to travel. And
Us that, really meant to be, so.
And that is, me too. And that was, that's actually a tradition for many families, going away at Easter. And so for many people, those things that would normally happen, those family traditions, are not able to happen right now. So whether that even be, for me, it's just grieving that we can't get together as a family for, Easter Sunday, where we'd normally have lunch together. And so there's a little bit of nervousness around we can't do the normal things that we would normally do. So that's a bit tricky for parents and for families to navigate, but we can do it. And it just means that things just have to be a little bit different right now. And the one thing that I think we can take comfort is the fact that we're all doing it. We're all in it together. I know when I broke my foot last year and I was out for a couple, for a good term.
Yeah, yeah.
Do the things that I wanted to do. I couldn't travel where I wanted to. I couldn't just go out whenever I wanted to. I was quite restricted. And it was very frustrating for me because everyone else was able to do their normal things except me.
Yeah.
And that was really frustrating. But I think one of the things about what we're going through at the moment is everyone is in it together. And we can take comfort in that. And I think that we all need to take a collective breath. And when we're feeling a bit anxious, I've been anxious today with just everything and just going, you know what? It's okay. And if you get something done in a day, great. If you don't, you don't. I saw a few things on social media about this is a good time to learn a new skill, or this is a great time to write that, or it's a good time to paint or whatever. But you know what? It might just be time just where you just have to breathe and survive and get through whatever that looks for your family and for you.
Yeah. And what would you say to parents who do have quite anxious children, maybe even depressed children, people that are genuinely anxious and depressed already, but and now it's like it's really heightened. They're in a whole different world. I mean, how can parents support them through that? I mean, obviously, we're not going to be yelling at people. We're not going to be or anything like that. We don't condone that. But one thing that I guess has helped people in my life that I'm close to is that just being willing to talk. I mean, how important is that?
Yeah. It's crucial. This is what we need. We need to be having conversations because we're in social isolation. And I know for me, I personally have had to call friends. I go for a walk every day and I call friends and connect in with people. And if you've got kids that have anxiety or any form of mental ill health, it's really important that you connect them in with their normal medical provider.
Yes.
I know that many psychologists and psychiatrists are doing face-to-face meetings. That's really important. They still happen, whether they be face-to-face or so those supports still need to be in place more now than ever. And if you are concerned as a parent, you can certainly set up some remote meetings with the GP, or you can in fact go and visit the GP. But also looking at ways that they can look after their mental health just in general, doing things, playing Lego, some mindfulness, drawing, colouring in, getting amongst nature, going for walks. All those things can help us with our mental health. Because I know for a fact that there's going to be a lot of young people who are going to present with some mental ill health issues through this because it is different and it's traumatic for some people.
Yeah, that's right. And I'll pause here for a minute and we'll just let people know that the way we're doing this is possible is our partners, PN Digital, and we have Rodney in the back there taking, putting all the comments and things like that on. Thanks so much. Don't forget to win that prize pack as well. Make sure you like and share and tag. But also we wanted to let you know that at the end of this, we are actually going to have a Q&A. So if you've been rustling around those questions in your head and you don't have anyone to talk to about it, now's the time to put that out there. And at the end of this interview, we will actually be doing a Q&A with Sharon, and we thank Sharon for being available for that. Look, I wanted to ask as well that a couple of my friends who are parents, I'm a parent myself, and a couple of my friends' parents are going, man, my children, like they are just going stir crazy. You said that some people are out of sorts, some are anxious, some are depressed, some are just down and things like that. I mean, they are maybe a little bit more off the charts than ever before. I mean, parents who are listening understand what I'm talking about. But really what I'm saying is what can parents do with their children who really are acting out because of the cooped up situation for them?
Yeah, it is a tricky one because I know that just before our students went off on early for the term into holidays or remote learning, it was really difficult because all of a sudden, literally overnight, many of them lost those connections that they have outside of school as well.
That's right.
We saw football games being cancelled. We saw basketball out. gymnastics, you name it, all of their social activities, youth group, all the things that they would normally be able to connect with outside of school that are so important socially have now been taken away from them. So they've got to look at other alternatives. I know from one of my children, it's who's a teenager, it's been connecting remotely online. So in Facebook, face-to-face, like we're doing now, actually being able to have conversations and connecting in, you know, watching a movie together online, and they can chat away. Cooking, you know, my daughter was cooking and had another friend on FaceTime, and they cooked at the same time, painting, sorts of things. So we can be a bit ingenious about what we're doing, but really we have to have a lot of understanding, and we can't fix it. This is one of those times we can't fix it for our kids.
No.
Make it better. That can be frustrating as a parent, and frustrating if, you know, not only are we dealing with our children who are frustrated, we're frustrated because suddenly we've got to learn new ways of doing our work and managing our workload, and it's difficult for all of us. So even just as a parent saying, I understand that this is really tricky and difficult for you, and it is for me too. I'm having to do things differently for my work, or I've lost my job, or whatever it happens to be. But just to say, I understand. What can I do to help you right now? You know, and there's lots of things that you can do, and you can go for walks together. You can set things up. You can have it, you know, set your tent up in the backyard and have a, you know, camping trip out in the backyard. You can create new traditions.
You can.
It's not going to be the same for everybody, but I think we need to listen, and we need to really have a lot of understanding for each other right now.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's really great advice, that we need to be understanding. And that's the thing that comes through to me is that before we go to, let me just breathe for a second. I understand. I understand this is tough. I understand this is, you know, we're struggling here. You know, and look, let's be really honest here. There's a lot of families right now that are not just coping with their children, they're coping with the loss of a job, maybe getting evicted, maybe having to cancel payments, and you know, we don't want to be empathetic in that. And look, you know, the other thing that I put up on my Facebook page the other day was the increased amount of family violence, where partners are now staying at home with the person that wants to hurt them, and children become collateral damage in the midst of that, and then trying to navigate that as well. And so maybe some of them, and obviously the area that we work in is child abuse, and so, you know, that there's a bit of a windmill effect in there. And so, you know, I agree with you. I think understanding is super important when it comes to that. And let's just pick up a little bit more on that, you know, that loss of out of school activities. Like, you know, for those people that are in family violence situations or abusive situations, or even just maybe bullying or anything like that, sport becomes a bit of an outlet for them, and they feel safer in those environments. And now they don't have it. And there's grief and a number of different things. Can you speak to that at all? What might children be feeling with that grief there?
Oh, a whole host of things. You know, they'd be just feeling like literally their world is being turned upside down. Life as we knew it is completely different now. So I think just reassurance that we understand where they're at, but also that we don't have all the answers either. I think parents, we often think that we have to solve it, we have to fix it for them, we have to solve this issue or help them feel better. And I think it's okay for us to say, we get it, and we this has never happened for us either in our lifetime. We've never had this happen. We've been completely socially isolated and not able to do our things that we'd want to do. So I think that's really important. Once again, I would really encourage young people. There's a lot of ways that they connect. They can speak to Lifeline. They can go to Kids Helpline. There's a lot of reachout.com. There's a lot of places beyond Blue. There's a lot of places they can connect where they can talk to counsellors. So there are lots of places that they can connect. If they're part of a youth group, I know that there's a lot of church youth groups that are running online forums where they can chat and, you know, have face-to-face chats and socialise with people online. So it's just about reimagining and reinventing what we're doing at the moment and looking at ways that we can connect. I think connection is probably the most crucial thing right now. That's why people with mental ill health and anxiety struggle so much, because it's that lack of connection. And often when you're feeling vulnerable, you don't want to connect with everyone. You'd rather just probably pop yourself under the doona and stay there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You know, that's just the way it is. So we need to reach out to people and connect, whether it be neighbours, from a distance, but just reaching out to the people in our community
Yeah.
is important. But there are certainly lots of online resources that we can reach out to, and I implore people, if they feel that they're in some sort of situation that is unsafe, that they reach out.
Yeah.
Reach out to the right authorities and get some assistance there.
Absolutely. And look, one of the things that that I heard the other day was that sporting clubs are now actually putting, when the training was meant to be on or the game was meant to be on, they've got like a Zoom call or a Skype or something like that, where they can do, drills and things like that all over, Melbourne or wherever it is. And so it keeps a bit of a routine for these kids, so that they can still feel part of the team even though they're not there, So that could be something that they could be doing. One really
important.
Yeah,
Routine's really important. I know for me, one of the things, being a people person and being someone that goes a bit stir crazy on my own, I've had to go out and make sure I walk every day for a significant amount of time. And during that time, I call people to connect. So I think establishing some routines is really crucial for our young people right now, because their routine of school and the habit of going through sport outside of school and their youth group or whatever social activities they have all been taken away. So they've got to now create a new routine, because we don't know how long this will be for. So creating a new routine, whether it be going for a walk each day and chatting to some friends, whether it be FaceTiming at a certain time, whether it be watching a TV show with friends remotely online at night, whatever that looks like for them. But we've got to put some routine in place.
Absolutely. And I think, one thing that we've done is we've done a bit of a schedule during the week, and we're really big on the fact that we don't want them to just be glued to a screen every day and watching Netflix and all that sort of stuff, But what we've done is we've made sure they only have a bit of time looking at screens. And I know it's their holidays and things like that, but to have that routine means that they feel like, one, they've got the opportunity to be able to connect, but also they've got the opportunity to do other things. So one of the things that, they could be doing is, the good thing about it is lockdown hasn't meant that we can't exercise, right? So we can go for a walk and actually get out there. And I think someone actually mentioned that. And that actually gives really good opportunity for mental health, but also, keep them fit. I mean, it's really interesting. I was talking to, I was doing one of these in Memphis with a guy in Memphis, and one of our ChildSafe champions over there, and he said that it was really interesting that people are panic buying toilet paper, but they're also panic buying fitness equipment. Like you can't get any fitness equipment. So that could be the opportunity to actually, this could help the obesity situation in Australia from a positive perspective, where obviously there's a lot of children that are obese and want to just sit on devices, and now is an opportunity to do some exercise.
Yeah, and I think for many people this is a good restart. We're so busy in our society. We're so almost so scheduled within a minute of our lives, and this is a time for us to stop. I mean, I'm not saying look at it as to be grateful for this time, but I know for me I am. But I'm in probably not in the same space as many other people. But it's a time to reset. And the other thing is, because it's so different, it's a good time for kids just to pause and stop and reimagine what they want to do. I just think this is it. We won't get this time again, and
you're right. Yeah.
Perhaps we needed to pause and stop and redo things, do things a bit differently. I wanted to be able to walk and exercise, but I was making every excuse under the sun. Now I don't have an excuse.
Yeah.
But it is tricky. And, yeah.
So could it be? Could it also be? And we're going to get to questions in a moment. If you've got a question, make sure you put it down there. Rodney in the back is feeding them to us, so we will be answering questions soon. But could it be also, Sharon, that it's about changing our language as well? You know, often we say, "Oh, we're stuck at home," or the kids say, "I'm stuck at home." Could we actually help them to understand and say, "Actually, we're staying at home to save lives, for one, and we're staying at home, and you've got all the opportunities in the world in our home to be able to do something that you haven't done before or anything like that." And you're right, having that conversation that you really wanted to have with that child, maybe they're struggling, maybe we start to ask those questions. How are you really? And you know, how's school going? Who are your friends these days? You know, all those sort of things that sometimes, you know, work takes over, and, you know, especially, you know, single mum or single dad, and they're trying to navigate this space. It is incredibly difficult. But you're right, this could be a time where we could reset.
Yeah, you reminded me. I knew that was a point I was going to make. It just, my mind wandered and I forgot what it was. Just come back to it. What I always say to my students is that you can't control everything.
Yes.
We can control what happens, but we can
Yeah.
always choose how we're going to respond.
That's
So
right.
we have no control over this. I have no control over the fact that I'm now going to be teaching remotely. I've got no control over the fact that I have to spend my time at home, but I always get to choose how I respond. And so this is actually a huge life lesson for not only our kids, but for us, that we get to choose how we respond to this. So I'm choosing to, rather than say, well, I'm stuck and I can't do anything, I'm choosing now to walk for an hour and a half every day. I'm choosing to choose one person each day to FaceTime with as I walk. I'm choosing to watch a movie every second day. I'm choosing to do these things. So we do have a choice how we respond. We don't have a choice about staying inside and self-isolating. We have to do that to protect others, but we do choose how we respond. And we do get to choose what we tell our minds and how we manage stress. Everyone is going to be feeling a little measure of anxiety. Some are small amounts, some a large amount. But we get to choose how we respond to that. One of the things that I'm going to get my students to do is, and I did this during a really difficult time in my life a few years ago, is I got a jar, and each day I wrote on a little Post-it note one thing that I was grateful for or thankful for every day.
Yeah, very good.
Even though the days, some days it was just, I could not see hope in the situation, I just wrote one thing, whether I was grateful that I had food in the house, or grateful for my children, or thankful that I had a home, I had a bed to lay my head in at the end of the night. But by doing that, and some days I just vented, but I just folded them and put them in that jar each night. It was in my walking robe, just on a little stand. But by doing that each day, even though I couldn't choose what was happening, I wasn't in control of what was happening in our situation, I could choose to look at one thing that I was at least thankful for. And I think that there's some merit in that, because at the end of this time, when we actually are able to we won't go back to normal life. I think life will be quite different, but we'll be able to look back and go, okay, I got through this really tricky time. If I can get through that and learn some key lessons out of this, life lessons, how well will I do with the rest of my life when other things come up?
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. I think that you know, this last question. This last question I have before we get into the questions that people are coming through, and we will pick that up again, because there's one person that's really said that. But how can parents look after themselves in this time? I mean, it's so critical we come out of this relatively unscathed.
Tricky, you know. Look for those things that when you feel stressed, look for some ways that you can self-care. Now, if you've got a number of children at home and you're thinking, how do I even find 5 minutes to myself?
Yeah.
You need to put something in place, whether that be the kids go to bed at a certain time and you take a warm bath, or you read a book. Or I downloaded Audible the other day, and I'm actually, because I find it really hard to concentrate and to read books because I write books. So I thought, okay, what can I do? So I'm walking and I'm listening to a book. That's been really helpful. But even if it could just be colouring, it could be colouring. It could be, some people like baking for their their self-care, exercising, whatever it is for you. It could be journaling. It could be starting a gratitude journal, or even just a gratitude jar. But look for things that for you just give you a little bit of mindfulness, even if it's 10, 15 minutes a day. Try and get as much sleep as you can. I know for many of us it's very difficult to sleep during this time, but find ways that you can do that. I downloaded the Calm app when I was having trouble sleeping a few months ago. It helped. There's lots of free online things as well. But, just look at ways that you can de-stress for yourself. Your self-care is most important right now.
Yeah, that's right. I agree. And that self-care is so critical. And, taking that breath. One of our ChildSafe champions talks about, he wrote a book called One Breath Meditation, Damien Ryder. And it's all about recognizing your breath in all the moments. So you can take a breath wherever you are and whenever you are, and it can really center you in a way that you're only focusing on that right then, and then that can take away some of the stress of those things. Sharon, your advice is absolutely remarkable, and I can see that you are sharing lived experiences, not just expert advice that you've read or you've written, but you've lived experience, and I think it's great because we're both parents. We both have people that have, are going through different things at different times. We're going to get to the questions. I just want to remind people, if they want to get into that prize pack of the 3 books, Raising Resilient Kids and the 2 Girls Wise books, and bookmark, ChildSafe bookmark around body safety, etc. Make sure you share this live and tag and like, etc. And then we can get there. So let's get into some questions, Sharon. There is some.
Before we get into the questions, I think it's really important because there's a lot of information out there and a lot of people speaking into this time. And what I want to say, I want to be completely authentic here, is that I have been through some major trauma myself in my family. And it wasn't exactly, obviously, what we're going through right now, but I have had my world completely thrown upside down. So before people think, wow, she's got it all together, it was really important that you said lived experience, because I've had my world turned upside down. I've suffered my own anxiety as a result of my family circumstances, completely out of my hands. Had a partner with severe mental illness who's no longer with us. And so I get it. And I had to manage our home life, manage everything completely different. And then trying to self-care at the same time as looking after my children's mental health. So I do want to be authentic there, because it's very easy to watch people and go, well, what would they know? They're just talking about self-care. I have had to live it. So I just wanted to say that, because it's very easy for us to think, look at them, they've got it together.
Yeah, no, we don't. We don't.
And so when I talk about the gratitude jar and those things, it sounds great and people go, oh, that's fun. Well, I'm sure you probably had time to do that. No, I made time to do it. It was the one thing that I did before I went to bed, just to breathe and stop, because it's something I could control. I could look at one thing I was grateful for. And some days it was just that my mum came over and dropped a roast in for me to eat. Some days it was just that I had some money in the bank to pay a bill. Some days it was a neighbour just dropping something on my doorstep. Some days it was just that I had a pillow and I could go to sleep, So I have lived it.
Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think, one thing I always appreciate about you, Sharon, is that you're okay to be vulnerable. And I think in this time, it's okay to be vulnerable, because if we're not, and we're trying to put this mask on and things like that, as parents, kids see through that. Let's be honest. They see through it. and we're so good at thinking that they can't see it, but that's wrong because they can, and they'll often pull us up on it. Yeah,
you have to be vulnerable because if you don't, when you're vulnerable and you share what you're going through and how you're feeling, it gives other people permission to say, "Oh, me too."
That's
Because
right.
at the moment, people can be on social media and watching people and think, "Look at all these people looking like they're loving isolation and making all these wonderful things with their children, and oh, they're loving it, and they're setting up activities, and look at their little desks they've set up for their kids to homeschool." And you could just be sitting there in your pajamas thinking, "I don't even want to get out of bed."
I know, that's right.
All I can do is chuck on a movie and hope that my kid's going to sit quietly for 2 hours because I'm done. And do you know what? That's okay. And it's okay to say, I'm in my pajamas all day, and that's okay. You know what? It's okay. Anything that you are managing right now is okay.
That's exactly right, and I think you're right. It's okay to be not okay, if you like, and to be totally honest, and having some friends around us to say that to us. We're going to get to the questions now. There are a lot of questions coming through around Year 12 and the impact, and I actually want to read one particular one that is quite. Look, I think they've been very vulnerable in sharing this. They said, "My miss 17.75 is struggling under the pressure of Year 12 and the uncertainty of plans. She is continually repeating information being broadcast, but has also become very clingy to me. What can you suggest would be a good way of calming her down, assisting her in understanding how she can protect her studies, mental health, and get the best out of her studies as such at such an incredibly crazy time?" And I think you need to speak to that, but also, those parents that have kids that are doing Year 12 and the impact of that in this time.
Yeah, look, the Year 12 is a whole new ballgame right now, and rightly so. Many Year 12 students would be feeling a bit vulnerable and stressed. It's already a stressful year for many of them. How do they navigate this? The good news is they're not alone. Thousands and thousands and thousands of Year 12 students have all had their year now look very different. So take comfort in that the government are looking at ways of making sure that those Year 12 students are going to have some big allowances. Their Year 12 will look quite different. Their exams will be at later stages now. They need to take a breath and also remember that it doesn't matter. In the end, it doesn't matter. They're going to do the very best they can under very different circumstances now with remote learning, and it could look different. For some students, they will enjoy the remote learning and they'll enjoy not having to have all the interruptions of the class and people interrupting, and others will find it quite isolating. There's going to be a lot of resources out there around helping to support our Year 12 students and all of our other students. But for those Year 12s who are reading a lot of information and soaking it all in, I would say try and just reassure them to limit that, to not worry about that, and just let them know you've got their back and that their Year 12 is going to look probably a bit different to how they thought, but to work within the schools, and that the schools are going to have a lot of things in place to help them through that. Exams will happen differently. SACs will probably be due at different times, and the most important thing is just to make sure they look after their mental health right now, and that they look at ways of managing that right now, and the studies will take care of themselves.
Yeah, not feeling like you have to be in the books the whole time, but actually going for a walk and talking with a mate and things like that. Don't use this time as extra crazy study time because you're isolated, but use it as keep your same routine as you would if you were still going to school. Yeah,
and also lean on your friends because they're all in the same boat.
Yeah,
do FaceTimes and study together online and go face to face. That's how I got through a lot of my Year 12 at night when I was studying accounting and I didn't get it. So back then we had the old phone, just the phone. So I would ring and speak to my study buddies and we'd work through things together. So we need to be a bit adventurous and a bit
creative.
Just look at ways of which we can learn a bit differently, but you need to take the pressure off yourself.
That's good.
The universities are all going to understand this. The government are going to understand this. Their health and emotional well-being is most important right now.
Yeah, fantastic. That's great. Someone's asked if there's going to be a recording of this available. We are going to put this recording on our ChildSafe Australia Facebook page, and we are looking at putting it on our website as well. And so we'll let you know through that website and Facebook page as well. Now, another person, Natalie, asked, how do we work with strong-willed children with distant learning when distant learning starts, and getting them to get onto this new routine when they might not want anything different to their old norm?
Yeah, it's really it's different. It's a completely new routine, and I think for some kids they thrive on routine. That I know my class they thrive on the fact that they know exactly what I'm going to do and how I mark the role, and then what we're going to do in class and how long they've got, and they thrive on it. So parents, you're not meant to be the teachers. Remember this: you are meant to be parents. You're going to just be there to guide them. I would say setting up structure. Kids need routine. So have a timetable when school goes back that you can roughly adhere to, but also see that there are going to be times that they have downtime. I'd be looking their screen time. I know they're going to have to be using devices as well, but also putting in structure so that they've got time to exercise, time to socialise online with friends, and then non-related school screen time needs to also be structured. Don't just let them have, rule of the roost and just be able to have screen time all the time. So you can use the screen time as a bit of a reward for if you get a certain amount of your work done during the day, you can then have some screen time, or you can have some game time, or whatever it happens to be. I think the other thing too is many parents are thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to supervise my child doing 6 hours of work a day. I can't mimic that. I can't do that. First of all, I'd want to say you're not the teacher, you're the parent. So take the reins off there. Your children have teachers. You're going to be connecting with them in whatever way that works with the school. But secondly, they don't do 6 hours of work a day. They just don't. They're at school for 6 hours, but during that time they have snack breaks, they have exercise breaks, they have recess and lunch and afternoon breaks. They have times where they go and do art, and they might have drama classes, and they, have PE. They're not sitting down in the classroom, pen to paper for 6 hours a day. So if we get, and we know that most of our young people can only concentrate for 20 to 30 minutes at a time. So if you think of it in ways of 20, 30-minute bursts of working, and then have a break. Build those food breaks in as well. Otherwise, they're going to be just in the pantry the whole time. So put some structure in place for those children that actually need a lot of routine. Explain, yes, you're going to have routine. School routine is just going to look a bit different this term.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, just one last question before we wrap up. And there are a couple of questions, but we will get to those. We have your questions. We will comment on there. One last question is in terms of social media, that was already a big issue amongst especially teenagers and some kids as well. Now you've got TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, etc. Parents are already nervous and worried about how they're going to deal with this. Now they're in isolation. It's gone up a whole nother level. How can parents work that through?
It's a great question, and I actually chatted with our country's best known cyber safety expert, Susan McLean, who I know you'll chat to at some stage. I talked to her about this just yesterday, and she was saying that the same rule applies that we would normally say, and that's no devices in bedrooms. Now, this probably goes against many parents who think, why? That's where they do their work. But the thing is, the most likely place that they're going to make errors online is in the privacy of their bedroom. So we do need to have those devices out in the family room. Our kids, our teenagers make the most mistakes when they think that they are on their own and no one's watching. In fact, a lot of people watching. Make sure the devices are set to private, but you need to be the gatekeeper for your child. Don't expect that they are just going to be able to be online and be unsupervised. You wouldn't open your front door and just let anybody come and go as they please.
That's right.
That's the same as when your kids are online, and make sure that your devices are set to private, but also make sure you check in regularly and see what your children are doing online. I'm already seeing a lot of children who are on Instagram and on Facebook who are under the age of 13, and we know that they should not be doing that. There's very good reasons for that. You need to be the parent, and more so than ever, you need to do that. So I just know that Susan was saying that really crucial thing, no devices in your bedroom. Please have them out in the family room. And if you have a teenager that works best in their bedroom, have the doors open. You need to be able to come and go. They need to be public, no private spaces with these devices.
Well, this is fantastic advice. We've gone way over time because it is such an important topic, isn't it, right?
Yeah.
But in closing, I just wanted to say to you, just so much love for you online. Like, you have a look at all the comments and the sharing and things like that. There is so much love online for you, Sharon. We thank you for being so genuine, authentic, and just so relatable. You are an incredible human being, and thanks so much for all your feedback, and also thanks for everyone else's feedback as well. It's been so good having all these questions and sharing and things like that, and let's keep that going. We just want to thank you again, Sharon. We know you've got to get to another meeting. We leave you to go and do that. And if people want to check out ChildSafe Australia for parents, we've actually set up a specific parents Facebook page as well. So ChildSafe Australia for parents, and or you can go to childsafe.org.au and you can find that there as well. So Sharon, thanks again for your time. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We look forward to the next Facebook Live. Have a wonderful evening. Take care.
Thanks for having me.